Hello, my spooky friends, and welcome to the first spooky repot with me of the season. I am so excited to be bringing this series back. Of course, I had to waste no time. I know it is still September, but we are kicking it off, and things are going to be a little bit different this year. I am actually going to be doing a voiceover for the repotting and storytelling section of the video, just because I felt like it made it really just kind of sloppy and hard to follow the stories the way I did it last year, just talking as I was repotting. So let me know if you like the style of today's video. This is a series that I'm genuinely so passionate about because I love spooky things at any time of the year. So I'm just so excited. I have some ideas for different themes for the episodes, but for this one, I'm actually going to be continuing sharing stories that you submitted to me. Some of them are from last year, some of them were from the beginning of this year when I asked. If you're new here, I love to share spooky, strange, paranormal, just any type of scary or bizarre stories that my subscribers send to me. So if you have had a spooky experience or have some type of tale to share, maybe a story that goes around in your town or something like that, please send it to me. I will put my email in the description box down below. I would love to feature it in one of my episodes. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce the plant that we are going to be repotting today. I'm sure that you can guess what it is from this long pot that I have sitting in front of me. And it is my beautiful Philodendron Gloriosum. So this plant is getting so big now and it's outgrowing its pot, as you can see. It's climbing right outside. It's just finishing unfurling this beautiful new leaf, and I have been so excited to upgrade it to this long terracotta pot. It can continue to crawl along. So that is what we are going to be doing today. We are also going to be putting a spooky touch on this planter setup, so I'm really excited for that. And yeah, if you like all things planty and spooky, just keep on watching. Okay, so we are going to get started with the first spooky story. I'm going to be omitting names from these stories because I'm not sure if these people want to be credited or not. If you do email me and submit a story, let me know if you would like me to credit you and include your name. But for these ones, since they were submitted so long ago, I do not remember who is okay with that or not, so we're just going to go ahead. So this is partially my ex's story and partially mine. I have a ton of spooky stories, and I've always felt like I have some kind of borderline medium abilities because I've always seen and interacted with what I believe to be spirits. Nonetheless, this story is by far the most impossible to explain, so I thought I would share it. Over Christmas break 3 years ago, I was visiting my ex out of town for a couple of days. He worked during the day, so I would stay at his house completely alone with his dog. The first day I was there, nothing happened. But the second day, while I was there alone, I had some interesting experiences. When I went to pour my coffee that morning, I noticed that many things were moved around. And at one point, the pans clinked together subtly. They were hanging from the ceiling. I honestly just completely wrote it off, and I didn't even think about it. I went on with my day and was watching Kill Bill on the couch in the living room when I heard and watched a tennis ball bounce off the floor multiple times and hit the wall behind me. At first I thought it was the dog until I looked back at the TV and realized the dog was actually laying dead asleep beside me on the couch. I instantly got very uncomfortable and decided to go outside and wait for my ex to get home, even though there was 3 feet of snow outside. I ended up telling him the story about a year later, and when I did, he told me that he had paranormal experiences in the house too. He said the couple who had his room before him actually moved out because a black figure came out of a closet one night when they were getting ready for bed and covered the entire ceiling. It couldn't have been sleep paralysis because they were still wide awake and ran out of the room when it happened. My ex also experienced things like his legs feeling heavy, like someone was holding them down when he was sitting in bed reading, and the dog barking uncontrollably during the night. Long story short, he moved out and I never visited that house ever again. Story number 2. When I was about 8, I was given this knockoff American Girl doll by my aunt. The doll had curly hair that was a little tangled, so I tried to brush it out. In doing this, I accidentally ripped the doll's head off. I somehow got the head to stay on with some makeshift tape bandages/cast. But ever since that incident, the doll started to move. I would leave it in one room and find it in another. I have a younger sister, so I just assumed she would play with the doll and not put it back. But she told me she hated the doll and that it scared her. The pattern of the doll moving continued for a few years, gradually increasing in frequency until one night when I was 11. I placed the doll on my dresser facing away from me, then got into bed for the night. The dresser is on the opposite side of my room and the furthest piece of furniture from my bed. I was woken up by pressure on my chest. I assumed it was my dog, but when I opened my eyes, the doll was sitting on my chest, staring down at me. I screamed and threw it across the room, breaking its head off again. I grabbed the doll body and head and put it back in the box it was given to me in, which thankfully happened to have latches on the sides. The doll stayed locked in that box until we moved houses and lost the box in the move. Story number 3. I moved to a country house with my family in 2012. This was a super old house built in the 1940s and was known to have had a couple of people die there. My room was the dining room that we made into a bedroom, so I had no doors. From my bed, I could see straight to the front door, and the door next to that was my closet. I'm a night owl, so I was always up super late and would hear little things now and then, but didn't think too much of it. Then I remember one morning I woke up and my closet door was wide open. The door doesn't shut all the way, so I figured my cat had opened it. But then it started happening often, at least 3 times a week. I would hear footsteps in our kitchen, but I'd be the only one home. One time I was trying to sleep, and I sleep on my side with my ear on the pillow, and I 100% heard someone say my name, and I could feel the breath on my ear. Another time, my brother was home alone, and I got a text from him saying he heard a little girl screaming outside, but when he went out there was no one. But all of that was nothing compared to this. Like I mentioned, I had no doors to my room, so people could walk through whenever to get to the living room. I was asleep, and my mom randomly woke up at about 4 a.m. to go into the living room. She said she woke up and felt like she needed to check the front door, so she did. And then she turned around to go back to her room and saw out the window a man's face looking into our house. She screamed, which woke everyone up, and then it was gone. She called the sheriff to come out and check things, but there was no sign of anyone outside. The kicker here is that the window was over 7 feet off the ground. So for her to see a full head in the window was almost impossible. After that, we would have cabinets open randomly and things would go missing all the time. My mom is a skeptic, but since then, she still questions if it was something paranormal that was in our house. I don't live there anymore, and the house was set to be demolished, but wasn't. It was a super weird experience. Story number 4. For some reason, my dreams always start off weird. So it starts off with my whole family staying in my brother's room. We were having a sleepover. After we watched a movie, we all went to sleep. It was almost as if I was having an out-of-body experience because I was a spirit looking down at myself sleeping. Then all of a sudden a shadow person appears, and I think sleeping me felt something watching her, so she woke up. I remember being able to see out the eyes of both the sleeping me and the spirit me. I opened my eyes to see the outline of what looked like a person. It's hard to describe what it looked like. It was almost like the shadows that you see when it's getting dark outside and the sun has gone down, but there's still a glow from the horizon and everything looks fuzzy. The spirit me saw the shadow jump on my body and pin me down, almost as if it was sensing that I was about to scream. And sleeping me remembers feeling a hand on my mouth and an arm across my chest, trying to hold both my arms down. The shadow person or creature, whatever it was, whispered in my ear, shushing me, and it told me to be quiet, that it's not even supposed to be there, and that it was going to get in trouble. I remember that scared me even more. And I don't know how, but spirit me somehow got sucked back into the body of sleeping me. And I somehow was able to get the shadow person's hand off of me. I took a deep breath and screamed. And that's when I woke up. I remember waking up sweating with my heart pounding. Ever since then, I have sporadically had dreams with shadow people, but they've never touched me or interacted with me the same way that this shadow person did. Okay, great story. I want to make a little commentary here on this one because this story is actually really similar to my experience with sleep paralysis, which was the most terrifying experience of my life. And I know a lot of people believe that sleep paralysis is actually like a paranormal experience. And I'm not sure what I think, but I did have a crazy experience similar to this one, so I can really empathize. And I also have a spooky Repot episode from last year talking about that experience. I think it was the first episode I ever did. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, then I'll link that video. But yeah, I find sleep paralysis to be such a fascinating topic, so I just wanted to mention that. Story number 5. Okay, so I've lived in my house for about 10 years now, and weird things have happened, but it just got a whole lot weirder a little while ago. A few months back, I began to hear knocks in sets of 3 coming from the inside of my closet door. At first it only happened once, but as the nights went on, more knocks would come, always in sets of 3. They got louder the more I ignored them, and I was not the only one that heard them either. A month later, after the knocks had started, the closet door began to open. Obviously, this scared the hell out of me, and I began to slam the door before I went to bed every night so I would know for sure if the reason it opened was because I never shut it. Much to my surprise, my fears were confirmed when the door opened again and I woke up with 3 scratches on my arm. The nights after that, I stayed awake. A couple nights later, the closet opened once more. In another room of my house, I heard the song, "Dream a Little Dream of Me," come on. Nobody was in that room, and everybody but me was asleep. It was staticky, and that's when I began to become extremely scared. I heard whispers right by my ear, but they sounded real, and there was a lot of them. They were loud, and when I tried to sleep anyway, I found the next morning I had 3 long scratches down the back of my spine. I hung a cross over every door and window the day after that, and since then, I've heard the knocks in sets of 3, but the closet has remained shut. Story number 6. This happened 8 or 9 years ago while I was at uni staying at a mate's house. We'd gone to bed, but I got up to use the loo. Their toilet was through the kitchen, and the sink and mirror faced out, so if the door was open, you could see the reflection of the kitchen and lounge. As I was going through the kitchen, clear as day, I saw the silhouette of a person walk across the lounge behind me. Her 2 other flatmates were out, and it was clearly a man, so I thought someone had broken in. My phone was upstairs, so I couldn't do anything. So after I didn't hear any noise, I ran back up to her room to tell her. She's half asleep and with no hesitation says, "Oh, that's just Bob the ghost," and went back to sleep. The next day she tells me they've heard, felt, and seen someone coming down the stairs and no one's been there. Had electronics act up and heard strange noises during the night. I never saw or heard anything else any other times I stayed there, but seeing him walking behind me still freaks me out. Story number 7. My childhood bedroom had a large north-facing window that looked out onto our front yard and the quiet road in front of our house. It was on the main floor, and I usually had my curtains open during the day to let the sunlight in. I was home alone after school one day and wasn't doing much, probably logging into MSN and talking to my friends on my ancient desktop computer. I got up to grab a drink, and I saw something out of the corner of my eye as I left the room. I came back with a glass of water, and from my window I could see a man standing on the street in front of my house looking directly into my window. I had no idea how long he had been standing there, totally unmoving, and looking right at me. I was frozen with fear as soon as I locked eyes with him. He was far enough away to not be able to make out his features, but not many people walked down my street that I didn't recognize. I felt like I couldn't look away, and stood there terrified for what seemed like ages until I backed up and closed my door and ran to the front door to make sure it was locked. This was at a time before cell phones were common, so I couldn't even call my parents to see when they were getting home. I have recurring nightmares of the exact moment when I saw this random man staring intently into my room, so I feel like the memory is a little fuzzy now, but it was such a weird experience. I'm glad nothing happened, and it was probably nothing, but I've never forgotten it. Alright, that is going to be it for today's spooky repot with me. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Like I said, please submit a story to me. I would love to share it in one of these videos. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and please click the notification bell. I have a ton of Halloween themed content planned for the month of October, so you can look forward to that. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!